And God can restore everything that the enemy stole from you tenfold. So you have to go back to him. You have to ask him for those things back. You have to say, Lord, the devil stole this from me, but I know that you can return it. And you ask God to restore you. Ask God to restore your health. Ask God to restore your joy. Ask God to restore your finances. Ask God to restore your mind. Ask God to restore your family. Ask God to restore your finances. Ask God to restore your confidence. Ask God to restore your peace. Ask God to restore your rest. Ask to just restore every single thing that the devil stole from you, because the devil is a lie, and his job is to come to steal, kill, and destroy. And sometimes the devil will steal these things away from you on your journey. Sometimes he will steal these things from you when you're young. Sometimes he will steal them when you get older. Sometimes it don't really matter. He will steal them. And you have to go back to God and ask God to restore you back to who you were, so that you do not walk around being who God did not create you to be. God did not create you to be bitter. God did not create you to be angry. God did not create you to, have no joy, have no peace, have no rest, have no confidence. God did not create you in that way. He said you are fearfully and wonderfully made. He said you are the head and not the tail. He said that you are above and not beneath. He said that you are my child. He said that you are blessed. He said that you are favored. That is what he said. But the enemy says differently. And sometimes in life, we lose pieces of ourselves where things and circumstances happen, life hits us, certain things happen, and we start to just become discouraged, and we start to act in a way that we were not acting before, and we just start to lose our identity, right? And that is exactly what the enemy wants. He wants us to lose who we were, our identity. But if God created you to be different, do not try to be someone else. He created you with a different personality. And that personality is not to be angry, bitter, upset all the time, mean, miserable, whatever it may be. He did not create you to be that way. He created you to have peace, joy, rest, and God can restore everything that the enemy stole from you tenfold. So you have to go back to him. You have to ask him for those things back. You have to say, Lord, the devil stole this from me, but I know that you can return it, and you can return it better than it was before. So I do ask of you, Lord, to restore me back to who I was, and to give me back the peace, the happiness, the joy, the confidence, to the rest, happiness, the hope that I once had. Because throughout life, the enemy stole them. The enemy stole them along the way. So I do ask of you, God, to restore me back to who you called me to be. So basically, I have this friend and his sister. It was a situation that occurred, and it came to a situation where she was explaining how, she was not always angry, or she was not always bitter. She used to love laughing and things of that. And because of circumstances, family, situations, she's no longer like that, right? Not saying that she's bitter and angry, but majority of the time, that's just how she is, right? And it goes to show that at least she recognized who she was before, but she recognized that she lost pieces along the way because of life, because of people, because of the devil, right? So, and that is exactly what the enemy wants. He wants us to be bitter. He wants us to be upset. He wants us to be angry. He wants us to curse God. He wants us to be the opposite of what God called us to be. He wants us to be in darkness all the time. He wants us to have anxiety, depression, fear. He wants us to be inconsistent. He wants us to be stagnant. He wants us to, he wants us to be binded in those things. But God is light. God wants us to walk in light. He wants us to be a light of this world. He wants us to share the gifts that he gave us. We can be able to share it with other people. God wants us to be light. He wants us to be light. And that's what he called us to be, a light of the world, a light in the world. He wants us to be a light in the world. It's so important to ask God to restore you and say, Lord, please restore me back to who I was. Please restore back who you created me to be, because if we do not, then the devil will win. We will start to walk around not who he created, not in our identity of who he created us to be. We start acting like somebody else and thinking like other, and thinking in a way that is not right, and acting in a way that is not right, speaking in a way that is not right, and performing in a way that is not right. So it's so important to ask God to restore you. He can do it. It is free. And if it's free, why wouldn't you ask? You know, when you go to God, we can immediately just talk to him. We don't have, if it is free, you ask him and you say, God, do it for me. You know, because God has done it for so many of us. So if he can do it for me, he could do it for you. He could do it for you. He could do it for your neighbor. He could do it for your neighbor. He could do it for your friend, your other neighbor, and that person's neighbor and the other person's neighbor. He can do it because he is God. He is God. He can do all things. So yeah, so ask God to restore you. But I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.